Hello everyone, welcome back to the Twin Plains, and we're back for turn 10. Real quick, I just wanted to say sorry for taking a little bit longer on this video than normal. A little while back I got sick briefly, just a mild illness that was over in a few days, thankfully, but still mildly annoying, so oh well. Anyways, with the news section of the video over, let's get right into our sweet revenge on the province of Allgold. And we succeeded, although the toll was still costly in terms of black centaurs. I think it was just a few too many heavy infantries there, and while the battle may not necessarily reflect the state of the turn at the time because of replay bugs, you can still kind of see that we get stuck in a little bit too much with the heavy cav, and then the heavy infantry still do quite a fair bit of chopping. So it was a bloody brawl, but we took the province eventually, and so have succeeded there. We also got to see a Phlegrin expansion, but we did not see their bless. Now, one other thing that very unfortunately happened was an unexpected event in the Woods of Weeping, which happened to be attacked by a group of tribesmen under the influence of an ill moon, which means a crap ton of werewolves. And werewolves are uniquely suited to being very bad news for apparently 48 mannequins was not sufficient to defeat 12 of them. And we lost quite a number of valuable things, specifically the carrion elephant here. Would have been nice to keep around. A harpy as well is just annoying to lose. The panic apostate luckily managed to retreat. However, that particular province was the province we had built a lab and a temple in, and we're about to cast Carrion Fort this turn, which means fort is delayed, and the cost of the temple is lost, not just the gold cost, but also the gems, potential gem income. So that is very frustrating, and we are once again on the warpath for bitter revenge against a crap ton of werewolves. And just because of how effective they were against 48 unscripted and measly mannequins, we're sending in basically everything. But we are also not stopping expansion. So we're going to hit here, which is potentially risky if Phlegra has an expansion force headed this way. So it's a very light group, but this can probably take 40 random dudes. And then yet another heavy cav province over here, which this whole like isthmus right here has been like heavy cav alley, and we've just had a lot of heavy cav provinces in general in our expansion, so frustrating but manageable for us. And we're sending the same kind of setup and formation, although maybe a little bit far heavy forward deployed, just because of if you want to separate out the heavy cav, you can put them further back like that, but then the Sagittarians wouldn't have as much time to fire. Anyways, trade-offs. So we're going to go up here, and this was where we saw the expansion from Phlegra. So we're going to see if the Barbarian province here is a effective deterrent for, what was it, 19 Gigantes? Yeah. So we'll see. I think that probably would intimidate. At least it says 70 right now, but it can fluctuate, so it may look larger to them. But if they do try and go for it, then we'll see if they succeed or fail, and then they will be, well, basically doubly on our border immediately, because we're going here. So our expansion is generally thrust in this upper left direction, while we're sort of ignoring this area around here, which is fair to Agartha just because of their cap circle, but if we were in any interest in rushing them down, we would be projecting our force more in that direction, which I suppose, depending on how easily this kills that up, we can potentially do that, but we will see. In the meantime, sending our scouts far afield to reveal the map and just uncover this fog of war. I think there was one other message actually which I failed to address, which is that we assassinated a caveman. And so that's great, that was successful, and we have uncovered a little bit more of the caves underground here as well. So we've got a bunch of flooded caves here, which is valid. I think it's probably about half and half, just because it's between the third layer where the water nations are. And this is kind of interesting terrain, especially the ones we want to be looking out for are the cave forests, because we can cast Carrion Fortress on them. So this one is very close to us. It's from our cap, we have to go through a wasteland, unfortunately, but then we can get in here, and this goes down into the ocean layer as well. So that would be a strategic place to put a fort down. And so we're just going to assassinate this and hopefully get this province for free, and we'll go from there. As far as recruitment goes, more Carrion Lords, which is lucky that we didn't lose that one, but probably can't have too many, and they're good casters in the long run, and then we can twice born them later. And recruitment batch of Black Centaurs, and then just Harpies scouts. Alright, so that's that, and let's move on to turn number 11. So here we are in turn 11, and we've got a bunch of things going on. For starters, we'll hit the actual assassination from the get-go this time, and it worked, but then also didn't work. So we killed the caveman, no doubt due to the poison from the dagger, but he also managed to kill us. So, well, easy come, easy go. He was a free guy, so nice to have him while he lasted. But I believe, if I'm probably correct in assuming that there were only 2 of these caveman champion leaders there, which means that it's probably an easy take with a Harpy Scout. And if not, we'll set it to retreat and won't lose anything, and we'll finish it off later. But if it is, then we take a province for free, even so. So, moving on from there, our expansion into Woods of Weeping is not expansion, it is revenge, and it was successful and yet also not successful, because Molos, the Panic Apostate, found a Lycanthrope's Amulet, which I could have seen if I were paying attention to the leaders, and I could have planned for if I had decided to not send my Panic Apostate there this turn, or at least sneak him in because he didn't need to participate in the battle explicitly. But I didn't think about that, and so now our Death 3 guy has Lycanthrope's Amulet and is entirely useless until I get Twiceborn to suicide him, get rid of that crap, and am able to use him like a normal pan guy. I was going to say human being, but he's not a human being. In any event, moving back to the messages, we see another, I was going to say expansion, but no, it's just a ping to see how many barbarians there are exactly, and now he knows, and now I know, so thank you very much, but I think neither of us will probably be going in there against 80 barbarians, but we'll keep an eye on it to see. Now for some actual expansion, we succeeded against the Heavy Cav, and I think this is probably pretty lucky of us, but we did lose another Black Centaur, so the attrition is real. And then the Desecrated Hills was a clean victory, no problems there against just light and heavy infantry of meager numbers. We saw another ping against more barbarians, and we'll see where that was in a second. And then we got a expansion from Agartha. Now I believe this is his cap circle, but we'll take a look at that in a second. And then we had an unexpected event in Asphodel, but thankfully we did not lose our Cap province to apparently 75 wolves randomly attacking us. I could sworn there was no actual story events or anything like that going on that said, hey, there's an ill moon or something like that, and there are wolves everywhere now. But apparently there are wolves everywhere now, and we have to deal with that. And I'm not entirely sure how to deal with that, other than being sad and maybe putting PD everywhere. So, speaking of PD, one of the things I've started to do in Dominions 6 specifically, moving over from Dominions 5, is putting 11 PD instead of the usual 6 PD in provinces, just to reduce the number of events, and also because you have a little bit more gold, and it is a little bit slightly more effective against certain types of rating, counter rating, and things like that. So if I have the gold, I have started investing in it, and it also helps to have 11 PD and then 1 random unit in a province to reduce a large number of events. If you're going for a Misfortune 1 or lower build, that can be something to keep in mind for games. And it really works out pretty well synergistically for pop kill free spawn nations, because you get free units, but if not, you can always recruit the cheapest militia and just leave one in every single one of your provinces. And I like to think it makes me feel a little bit more secure and safer, although Misfortune 2 builds can be quite nasty depending on the set of events that you come up with. So something to keep in mind. Now, as I was saying earlier, let's take a look at these events or locations. So this ping was over here and is even more barbarians than the one up here. So between us, there's only 80-ish barbarians, but between Phlegra and Nazca, there's over 100. So they would probably have to be going through this throne to each other, which, by the way, throne was claimed by, or I shouldn't say claimed, hasn't been claimed yet, so we don't know which throne this is yet, but the province has been taken by Nazca and is worth noting. We did not see that battle, so we will want to be putting scouts in the rest of these thrones pretty quickly, just to see A, what kind of defenders there are, and B, when they get taken. So that is important to note. Aside from that, we're just seeing where Ind has expanded into so far. And then aside from that, as I said, the province that Agartha has taken is their cap circle. Now, this one is empty, or has an indie flag on it, but again, it could potentially be Ind's Dominion pushing in here, showing it as independent, so it is worth seeing. And also, it is worth just tracking. So right now, Agartha has gone here with a significant expansion group, and that group with his bless can take either this, or whatever might be here. So we're putting a scout in all 3 of these, and we are going to be deciding then, if he goes here or here, which one we will take the next turn. And if he goes here, then we'll probably just take both. So I'm putting this group here and this group here, and I think that can probably take either of these. This has no heavy cav, or at least it doesn't say it has heavy cav out of the 140, so this group is probably sufficient to take a large blob of just heavy infantries and militias. Probably rout the militias, and then the rest will follow shortly thereafter. And this group is probably massive overkill for this, so in theory we could even just go here anyways and bump him over it. Well, I say bump. We wouldn't be bumping him over it. It would just be a show of force at that point, because he would have already taken it, and then we can decide whether we go in on him or not. So there's that. Now from here, you also get to see the adjacent underground connection, and we do see a flag in the underground for Agartha, which means he has been expanding under here with something. So he's probably at least a little bit bigger than what he shows here. Still not 100% sure if we if they're starting a fort here from Phlegra, but it's pretty likely at this point. And then Nazca is probably going to be putting a fort here relatively soon. Now we see this province change hands, but I'm not reading into it too much because the Ind player has told me that it was an agreement with Nazca, and earlier on in the game the Ind player had actually asked me not to take this province or to expand into this cave so that they could do it, and I was fine with it because I didn't have any intention to overexpand and try and take this, so we weren't worried about it, and we just let them have it. And so the other thing that we're going to be doing is making a play on our own first cave province right here, and in theory we could also be going into the underwater provinces with our own aquatic mannequins, but I don't think we have enough critical mass of that. Mannequins are actually pretty bad underwater. If you don't have like over 100 of them, then things can kill them pretty quickly. So let's see, what else is going on? Okay, recruitment. Oh, I misspoke. So we hadn't built a lab yet, but we had built the temple first, which maybe was dumb, but oh well. We're doing it this way, building a lab now, and then we will cast Carrion Fort. Meanwhile, we are casting Carrion Fort now and building the temple here, and hopefully we won't have any mistakes on that front, and that will allow us to start recruiting mages and then finally get to researching because it is turn 11 and we have done literally none of that, which I'm kind of fine with. Our bless and our expansion has been able to carry us so far, and I don't think that I will need any specific target researches to prosecute a first war if I wanted to, just from the strength of my bless and my sacreds. It depends. It depends on who I went with, especially against some awake pretender like we've seen with Nazca and anybody else who might have one. Not Ind, not Agartha, maybe Phlegra. We'll see. And we haven't seen any of the players in the Ocean Realm, so anyways, that is the state of play. For recruitment, we're a little low on gold, so probably just because we're putting up a lot of infrastructure and recruiting the expensive guys in the form of Minotaurs, but Minotaurs will be good if we get into an early war. Anyways, I'm rambling now at this point, so let's move on to turn number 12. Turn 12, and I didn't actually go over where I was expanding up in the north, but it was into the swamps, and we decided that we wanted to go for the swamps as opposed to this province for no particular reason. I think I was thinking maybe I would potentially bump Ind over it. I didn't know how far they had gotten down into this area or if they had an expansion group here, but I just went for it, and it was either that or also a relatively easy expansion over here against militias, and turns out it was probably the wise move. I don't think I could have taken a Dracolich with this group here, so there he is again. I actually had assumed that he had used his pretender to take this throne, but it's quite far away, so I don't think that's the case. He was probably just expanding and just flew from his cap to the throne province and just took it, so it must have been pretty easy indies over here. But yeah, there's his guy, so we've got a border with him, and we have had a border with Phlegra for a little while, but no conversation there on that front with either Ind or Nazca. Just a little bit of talking through Discord with Ind about nothing in particular, just bantering about the game state. And let's see, so Agartha does indeed own this already and wound up going up here. And so we will be in turn going down here. And basically with everything, I don't think anything is getting left here. Yep. So aside from that, let's go back to messages just to go over everything. we have the Throne of Law getting claimed by an Inca. So that is scales and PD conscription, which the way that works, if I understand correctly, well, I can just read it here. Province's defense in friendly dominion will automatically recruit up to this level plus the order scale. So let's see what their default order is. It is 2, so that means they will get up to 12 free dominion over time, slowly, just ticking up, which can also be good for us. We don't have any order right now, but if we were to have claimed it, for example, we would get 1 order, so that would allow us to go up to 11, which sort of meshes with my general strategy. And as we can see as well, I've been putting 11 PD in a couple of more core provinces, just sort of this general area and the forests specifically. So yeah, anyways, Ind claimed the throne. We successfully cast the fortress in the forest province, so that is our second fort up there, and I don't think anybody else has gotten up a second fort, so we are still ahead of the curve on that one, but we could have been a lot farther ahead with that, although we will be getting our third fortress pretty much immediately, and we are going to be putting up our fourth in this province in rapid succession. The Battle of Expansion, which was only 1 expansion, but we're kind of running out of spaces now, so everybody else has filled out the lands, so we're going to probably be eyeing thrones and then deciding on first war. This throne is very, very tempting. We've already got forces in the area after we take this province, and this throne looks like a little bit harder just because of the barbarians, but still takeable. And then aside from that, we've got expansion with Ind, relatively lossless. The mermen are not a real casualty. And no casualties from Agartha, and that was the expansion there. As far as events, more wolves, because of course there are more wolves somehow, somewhere in this game. Don't know why, don't know how. And then of note, I didn't address it, but of note there is an event here that Agartha lost a province to special troops. Don't know what kind quite yet, but I haven't actually put anything there, so we'll be putting a guy there to see if he clears that or if it's already gone somewhere else. And then, yeah, so we're moving a big group here. I don't see any troops here, and I don't see any troops here, so it will not be contested by Agartha, but it could be contested by Ind potentially. He has 1 expansion group over here, and I don't know where another expansion group is. It's probably either up here or over here somewhere. Not 100% sure. It hasn't gone down into the caves because it's the Duggos, the Cynocephalians. And, oh yeah, and we took this province for free, so I guess this counts as expansion, because as I predicted, there were only 2 cavemen leaders, and we had assassinated both of them, so that's great. We are not recruiting any cavemen to assist in expansion, and we are not moving anybody down there quite yet, but we're just going to send our harpy to look around some more. And we can already now see into the third layer, which is the realm of the ocean nations, the 4 ocean nations, and this is the first province that we see going from here. And like I said, it will be a good choke point if we can build up a bunch of mannequins, keep our dominion in there, and then be able to move a war, prosecute a war down into their lair if we wanted to from here. We already see that the water nations are moving pretty rapidly into the cave lair on their end as well. There's Atlantis and there is Pelagia. And aside from that, we haven't really uncovered a whole lot, but I remember this is where Agartha has expanded into, so there's probably a bunch over here. What else? We don't see anything of note in their capital, I should say Phlegra's capital. So they have their gigantes, or they had them here somewhere, but I don't see them now. And they haven't moved into this province, which again fluctuates up to 110, but we know it's around 80. And Nazca is wide, especially in terms of taking the water nations, so they have probably a pretty good income and are likely building a palisade here and maybe one here as well, and are recruiting some stuff over here, maybe to just flesh out their recruitment. I'm not 100% sure. They've already got the water provinces and they can take them with their pretenders. So, but yeah, so expansion is pretty much over. So as far as redistributing, we are moving everybody sort of into a centrally located position to decide what we want to do next and move from there. Again, Agartha is on the plate as a potential target just because they look small, but they may be larger than they seem depending on how well they expended underground. So we should send scouts there to look and see. Speaking of the underground layer, there's nothing more to uncover now in terms of Fog of War. We have seen everything there is to see on this layer, and aside from that, we can also expand into underwater provinces pretty easily depending on the water province, but we won't be able to put our scouts there, our Harpy scouts there, for quite a while to watch other people and how well they expand. The only real contestant for that right now is going to be Agartha, but depending on what Inn's Bless is, it may be Ind as well, and they could have taken, for example, Water Breathing Bless, and Phlegra, not sure what their plan is quite yet to get underwater, but we shall maybe see about that. And then Thrones, again, this throne right here is a tempting target, but is not super great for us long term in terms of holding it, just because it is in the wasteland, which means that we can't put a fort there, a good fort there, very easily. But it is a very important choke point because it goes down into the caves, and we can cover that end of the choke point at least because there is a cave forest there. We could move our expansion underground and decide if we are able to take more provinces that way. We'd have to take a lot more mannequins and carrion underground with us in order to make that work out. By the way, from an event from the previous turn, we got a bunch of these crappy peasants, which I despise having because they are costing us upkeep, but I have nothing better to do with them, so I'm just ignoring that they exist. And aside from that, we've started getting quite a few free commanders, so we're just moving them all over the place to start shuttling the mannequins around, and like I said, consolidate and redistribute to centralized locations and decide what we want to do with them from there. So, not particularly eventful quite yet, other than the actual events, which have been annoying and unfortunate, misfortunate, if you will. As far as research, I think we still haven't quite started doing that, but we will because of our Dryad Hags. So we're going for Dryad Hags. This will be more research, more upkeep in the morale section, but I think we'll be able to sustain it for a little bit, and will be better for site searching as well, and will be better overall combat casters. So we're going to be focusing on that aspect of it, the high upfront cost and the high upkeep for faster research, and then being able to utilize them later on in the game. And then aside from that, no mercs that we're getting quite yet. There aren't very interesting ones, so we won't worry about that. That's it for this turn. Let's move on to turn 13. Alright, here we are, turn 13, and it looks like the Phlegrans player has braved the barbarians after all. Might not have necessarily known that I was already on this side of the border. This could present a problem because it is quite far from where I've decided to be consolidating, but they would move slowly and I would lose outlying provinces of not necessarily any strategic value, so we'd be able to react to it and then push in from this direction and threaten his lands that way if he decided to go in on us. So we will keep an eye on that, but there isn't really any good reason for me to start massing troops on the border here quite yet. So unfortunate that that's there, but we will just wait and see. As I was mentioning earlier, Agartha is very easily able to get in the water, and they have done so. So they are now here, which is also a cave entrance, which I can't see. I'm trying to right click on it, but I don't see where it goes quite yet. So they will probably either go here or straight underground and continue their underground expansion. Speaking of underground expansion and expansion in general, they have built a temple here. But I'm getting ahead of myself because we haven't even gone over our own expansion. We succeeded pretty easily against Deer Tribe, which are Deer Tribe. And then the Agarthan player cleared out the caveman special troops, special monsters, that was in their cap circle, relatively losslessly. And we had yet another event from Asphodel, being attacked by a rabid dog. Wolves and dogs again, and there's some more getting cursed by the full moon. That's in this province. That might be a problem later on. Let's see. Wolves, stranger. Yeah. So this might have some event in it that we'll have to keep an eye on for later. But in any event, things are still going well for us. We've got our second fort up right here, so that's great. And we're putting a temple in it, so that we'll be able to recruit mages from it. And we are recruiting extra harpies there for now. But we're a little low on gold because we're doubling up the infrastructure over here. Even though we see this threat from Phlegra over here, we can get a fort down pretty quickly here. So if he has a massing on this border as well, we will at least have that bulwark to defend from and then move out from, because especially we have stealthy troops, so even if he puts this under siege, we could sneak out and attack here in his rear lines and cut his supply routes. So we'll see about that. Anyways, that's a maybe yes, maybe no kind of situation. But temples going up everywhere that people are likely building forts. Speaking of forts, there's the first one out of Nazca. And I say temples going up where people are going to build forts, but Ind builds temples everywhere, and that allows them to get more of their sacreds. So as far as consolidation goes, we are going to consolidate here, which is serving a dual purpose. If Phlegra decides to attack us, then we will have a large force with which to react that is not on his border, and so not immediately threatening, but can become a quick reaction force if we decide to. And if he does not attack us, then we can decide to go and take this throne, and then still be able to attack him from there later on. We see that this province has also not been expanded into, so if we take this throne, we could then immediately go into here as well in a potentially non-threatening manner with a large group, but it's not antagonizing anybody that has claim to it per se, although a couple of players could get there first. This is the over 100 barbarians that we're not going to worry about because it's between two other players. And what else? Well, on this layer, not much to speak of. But on the second layer, we are continuing our exploration. Pelagia has expanded quite a bit. They are all over the place in the water here and are only competing with Atlantis, who is over here. We don't have anything to speak of as far as getting underground with an army, but we're going to move something over here and probably just pick up these guys with him and go straight there. Aside from that, for what research goes, we have decided to go enchantment first to get enchantment 4 for Twiceborn, and maybe be able to get our poor Panic Apostate to become a Carrion Lord before he turns into a werewolf instead. We'll see about that, but it's a race against time, because for those who are not aware of what Lycanthrope's amulet does, it makes you automatically berserk all the time, gives you some other nice general benefits, but eventually will turn you into a generic werewolf and invalidate all of your other stats. So it would make him very bad indeed, and we want him to be a pan, not a werewolf. So we will be looking at getting him to Twiceborn, and then also be able to get him underwater and suicide him probably into this province. We're just going to leave that for a while because it's Shark Tribe, and Shark Tribe are going to be a big pain in the butt for mannequins to expand into. And maybe we'll just leave that to the Dracolich instead. So those are our plans, and we will see how things pan out from here in turn, 14 next video. Thank you for watching.